It's a beautiful day to blaze some good. A beautiful day to blaze some good. Would you be kind? Please light mine. Well, welcome to well, it says wake and bake, but I'm just gonna change it eventually to getting baked because I can't seem to fucking film when I'm waking up smoking. Whatever. anyway, anyway, welcome to basically just getting fried. So today's agenda, well, actually just going from yesterday's podcast was pretty heavy. You know, it was about the dystopian movies, but I went into a little bit more about what the dystopian movies. You know, I went in a little bit more about how they reflect in society, and of course, I'm going to go ahead and do my movie view this week on Discord. I'm going to put up some flyers for that, but it was pretty heavy. Went into some pretty heavy sort of ideas, and I already got my ideas for next week, and it's be pretty heavy as well. So that's that. But now on a more lighter note, Friday is usually reserved for basically finding out good songs to either songs or bands or albums to smoke to. So far on my list, I can't do this on YouTube, but as far as setting up, the movies for on Discord, I'm gonna play these songs. So far I got a good list going on here. So first song I gotta have on the list, as far as songs to smoke to, gotta smoke two joints. I already smoked one, got two rolls, so even before the song came out, that was my deal. It was either two joints or two blunts when I was smoking blunts, but two joints. Guess got to be number one on the list. Of course, it's from Sublime. Okay, so the next song, this group isn't necessarily mainstream, but they, back in that time frame, like the 90s, they were killing it, and they were from the West Coast, but they had more of a New York style. So the group I'm talking about is the Alcoholics, a song called Mary Jane. All right, so, okay, and this is going to be a mixed list. I don't just listen to hip hop, you know what I'm saying? I listen to metal, listen to EDM. We used to call it techno back in my day, but so the next one's going to be a little bit of a departure. Favorite band of anything I ever listened to my whole life, 48 years. Love You to Death from Type O Negative. Really, that whole album. I just sit back and just light up and just. So the next one is even a little bit more departure for the last. So this one is Soundboy Burial. Of course, it's from Smith & Wesson, hip-hop group from Brooklyn. My original location on this earth. And that's why I said earth. In my world and in my channel, in my sphere, it's earth. EAR. Not even the A's. ERF. Earth. Where'd that A come from? You don't even pronounce it. Fuck it. It's ERF. Earth. All right, so next one, departure from all of them. It's a song back from the 80s. I think the group was from, I believe they're from Europe. It's a little river band with a song called Reminisce. Totally weird compared to all the other entries on this, but it's a chiller song. So that's on the list. Now, here's another one. Rapper, I'm not too big on, but I definitely should take a little bit more of a listen now because we definitely on that level, which is honestly name of the song is "On My Level" by Wiz Khalifa. And with Too Short. These two rappers I really didn't listen to a whole lot, but the song was just off the wall. And of course, just the craziest shit that just happened with Too Short's brother, which I can give the obligatory rest in peace. I don't want to sound too forward because I don't really know them, but it really sucks. And of course, what were they doing? What we all do. You know what I'm saying? It involved this the Sweet Leaf. Another song I forgot to put in there. Sabbath. Sabbath. Ozzy. Sweet Leaf. Sabbath. But back to what I was previously saying. Yeah, I mean, this is what we all do. Some way, shape, or form. We were all part of this culture, and it's just the fact that being part of this culture, especially the part where you're providing for yourself, you're providing for the community, providing for family. You're growing herbs for us. You know, and then by doing so, you're able to create you know money for your family and yourselves, commerce. I like the whole aspect of commerce. And we all part of this culture somehow. Anybody watching this, anybody knows me. It's about the culture, and it just bothers me that you know taking part of that culture, taking part in that culture, is what ultimately got him killed. So that's definitely some bullshit. I'm okay. So the next one is "How Could It Kill a Man," Cypress Hill. Now, of course, they got other weed songs, but that was the song that introduced the world, pretty much us to me, to Cypress Hill. And that song was just so ominous at the time. It was just so larger than life. It was just such a lore behind that song. And then it turned out to be, what I'm saying, these guys are big into the culture, and they're forefathers of the culture. I mean, we got to go back to Cheech and Chong, but so Cypress, and anybody watching this, you have your own Cypress songs. Anything you could just sit down and just press play for a whole album and just puff up. Okay, so now the next one is "Because I Got High." Not the biggest fan. The song is alright. The premise behind it. That's I definitely can't hate on it. I'm sounding hateful, but I wasn't the biggest fan, but it's still on the list because I got high, or because I get high. All right, so the next one is not a song per se. It's a band I should have gotten into a while ago. I had a homeboy that tried to get me into them, being that one, I love death metal and I love cannabis. And I love Cannibal Corpse. So now they had a band that was sort of like a spoof on Cannibal Corpse called Cannabis Corpse. I should have paid attention to it more. I can go back and definitely check them out. But it's all a whole band. So and not only they're dedicated to the culture. So definitely. Now the next one is from a band. Any album is basically just puff up to. But this song that I'm gonna highlight is a good one. You know, obviously there are other substances that were available back in the '60s and '70s that when the '80s and '90s. The song is "Shine on You Crazy Diamond." Um, Pink Floyd. Anyone, just pick one, and it's definitely good to sort of smoke with that kind of music because there's so many layers. There's so much to the music, you know. And when you listen to it on the radio, you take it for granted, you know, what's there. But when you sit back and just puff up and just listen and just, you know, engulf yourself in the sounds, it just, you just hear it all. You know what I mean? I still never got to go to a concert. Unfortunately, you know, it's either you go see Roger Waters or you go see what's the other guy's name? I forgot the other guy's name because I got high. But either or, it would be great to go see, you know, especially with the big light show and all that. Some of the things I think of as far as my own music, some of the things that I want to implement as far as the sound goes. Floyd, you know, is definitely part of that sort of sound base, basically. Sort of Floyd and even even like Typo Negative. You know, Typo Negative. Whenever I'm writing music, sometimes I use it sort of like say, let me get typo with it, which basically means to slow it down and maybe add some lush element to it with keyboards and stuff. But you can imagine the sort of elements of like Pink Floyd and elements of typo, but then mix that with like elements of like Cannibal Corpse and you know like Morbid Angel and like my favorite. Those are like my favorite death metal bands. So just you know Pantera, you know. So you get that sort of crazy, sort of lush, sort of psychedelic sound. Mix it with sort of like heavy. That's sort of the sound I'm sort of going for. Now the next band sort of fits that profile too, as far as that sound with the keys and psychedelic sounding. Great to smoke too. The Doors. The song I put on there is The End, but you can go album to album. Now, the next one, the artist is obvious. The song isn't so much, but I want to give this one a try. Bob Marley. So the song is Three Little Birds. Now, that that's a given, and it's the same thing with it with Floyd. You just go from album to album to album to album, and you want to do that. You want to sit back and puff up because you want to be able to hear every element of the songs. It's just that's all right. So now the next guy, another one that I haven't really gotten into too much, but he did do that song for, I think it was called, it was something X. It's about that movie about that big ass party. They like basically these, like four nerdy kids had like this super big ass party, destroyed the shit out the house, destroyed the block. They had that like old guy that they stole the gnome from that had all the accident. And he was like, "Give me back my fucking gnome." So, what I'm talking about is Kid Cudi. That song that he had in that movie, I love that song. But I just still haven't listened to a whole lot of them. But he got a song called Marijuana. Come on now. All right, so the next one is, I think, a super pivotal album in hip hop. Period. You know, me being an East Coast person, being originally from New York, and mostly listening to like a lot of like, New York hip hop. This one album, I wasn't in New York when this one hit, but I can imagine because anybody that I knew that listened to hip hop, you know what I'm saying, mostly listened to New York shit, but this shit hit, and I mean, the Chronic album from Dr. Dre, you know what I'm saying? Come on. I mean, it isn't chronic, but but you know, come on, come on. Enough said. Song from song to song, to song to song to song. Just, I mean, now the next one is another one of those old groups. Very psychedelic type of a group. Never, I mean, they didn't get really presented that way, but if you listen to the music, it's mad psychedelic. So this one is gonna be the Beatles. So the song I was looking at is Strawberry Fields Forever. But this is another one. Album to album to album to album. And just sit back and puff up. But it's the same thing. Mad layers. I wish I listened to him a little more. I really want to start listening to him a little bit more. I'm more of a, because they had like a thing between, you know, the Beatles and the Stones. I'm more of a Stones guy. They definitely got to be on the list too. I didn't put them on the list, but I'm definitely more of a Stones guy. They're another group. Album to album to album. The old ones, I struggled. I struggled a bit. I think that one. That's I think is the distinction between the Beatles and the Stones, the Rolling Stones. Obviously longevity, because I think the Stones are on tour right now. You know what I'm saying? I think Mick Jagger knew Jesus. But, and the Beatles, obviously, it's been like forever. I think they were doing albums and stopped touring, so they had like I think maybe a couple albums. I gotta look, but there were a couple albums they released and hadn't toured as the Beatles. They all went sort of their separate ways. And you had like George Harrison did his own stuff. He did some pretty good stuff. I also like the Traveling Wilburys. He was part of that. That was pretty good. Him and like Roy Orbison. Kind of obscure for me. Not if you actually knew me, but I guess sort of looking at me, that would be if you look up Traveling Wilburys. Like what? Especially with the rest of this list. Yeah, I think he was probably my favorite. George Harrison is probably my favorite out of all of them. I mean, I did like Imagine. There's a couple of songs that he did, but yeah, and primarily because I did like the Traveling Wilburys. I guess is why George Harrison was probably my favorite out of them. I didn't really listen to Wings from Paul McCartney, but either way. So the next one, going back to hip hop, this one's sort of a no brainer. It's look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. You know what I'm saying? Ain't got to go with How High from Method Man and Redman. In fact, Wu Tang altogether and Redman's everything, especially Wu Tang's first one. Come on, same thing, front to back. How High, front to back. Redman, pick an album front to back. Just the whole thing is just mob out, light up, and just yeah. That was a. I just thinking as far as like nostalgia. That song, that movie, just that whole time period was a good time period for me. As a younger dude, had a little bit of money in my pocket, you know, fresh out of the high school ish, hitting the streets. You know what I mean, for the first time in my life. You know, in a real way. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have curfews and shit like that. This to say, I did some shit. So the next one, another artist, album to album to album to album, they just puff up, and you definitely, it's another one just to sit back and analyze if you're a guitar player, because it's so obviously talking about Jimi Hendrix, the song, any number of the songs, but I got to go with the one that actually has a strain named after. So Purple Haze. Oddly enough, not really a fan of purples. They make me sleepy, like right away. I wish I could like them more because I've had some crazy looking purples. Granddaddy Purple Haze, purple this, purple that. You know what I'm saying? A friend gave me a bud one day, and the shit was black. The shit was mad black. And I was like, what the fuck is this you giving me? What the fuck? Come on, yo. I'm not paid for this bullshit. It's like, dude, it's purple. You know, he rolled it up. Shit was some fire. But it put me to sleep. All right, so next song, it's obvious. It's obvious. You know, especially back in my earlier days and when I didn't have money, you know what I'm saying, and you know, we actually lived this shit in this song. The song is I got five on it from the Loonies. That was so crazy when the song came out because this is another one of those nostalgic songs that was in that time period. And you know, there was times where times were tough, and it was like that. It was like that. You know, it was like, yo, I literally got, I've said that, not, you know what I mean, not as far as because I've heard the song, but this is what we said. This is real culture. This is real shit. This is part of the culture. You know what I'm saying? One person would have the connection, but maybe didn't have any money, so he was going to smoke because he had the connection. So then we had the catch a person would, you know what I'm saying? I'd have like 510. The homie would have another 510. You know what I'm saying? That would be the bag. Then we had another homie. He probably had the cigarettes and shit. And then, you know what I'm saying? Maybe a couple of beers or whatever. Then another person would have the car. Then, you know what I'm saying? The person with the connection would go with them to get the herbs, go back to the spot, and it was just homies, just like in a circle, just like in the 70s show. You know what I'm saying? Most of the times, you know what I'm saying, we got some hip hop in the background. You know what I'm saying? Cats is rhyming. You know, a lot of shit that we did was that we would pass the rhyme around like a blunt. You know what I'm saying? So one person would say a line, then the next person would say a line. You know what I'm saying? Having to go along with the other line. That's part of the culture. So that's what's so great about it. Got five on it. That's it's on the list for sure. For sure. Um, okay, so now we get into more like stoner rock bands. So one band, I think they're more of a beer band, but they have that stoner rock sound, stoner rock metal sound. They have a few songs that are like I could even a bit more of a deep dive, but definitely on the list is Red Fang, chill band for sure. Then okay, so I did put Sweet Leaf, Sabbath. Come on, that's Sabbath. That is they're like the forefathers of metal. That's metal. All right, looking for the fuck did I do with it? Oh, it's right here. All right, so Sabbath, Sweet Leaf. They have a few different songs that seem dedicated to herbal. So Sabbath is on the list. Now the next band, big on the singer's original band, being a guitar player, but they're okay. So the band I'm talking about is Down. Now, Down is definitely on the list. They definitely are stoner band. Bury Me in Smoke. What was they have another one. I forgot the name. I was just listening to it the other day, but they have another one dedicated to herbs. I mean, Down. But then again, you don't really think of Pantera as a stoner band, but it was Dimebag Darrell. So they're on the list too. They're on every list. After Typo Negative, they're on every list. So Down. Now, the next band, I've heard like maybe one song. Another band I wish I gave a bit of a listen to, a bigger listen to. But I am now because this is part of the project, and I want to. Being that this is something that I can, as part of the podcast, I can use that as an excuse to go back and listen to High on Fire. High on Fire. High on Fire. I mean, I'm looking at the list. They have a few bands I've heard of and a few bands I haven't. So we have Bison BC and Bison. I like that name. Hmm. They got a bunch of bands I could never even knew existed. There's just thousands and thousands and thousands of bands. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. So another band that I want to put on the list. So, I wouldn't necessarily call them a stoner band, but they are kind of a sludge band, and you can really just sit back and relax to this group. A band called YOB. They're not like really mainstream. Like I said, they're more of a sludge, and that's within blah blah blah. Stuck in my tongue. Within metal, you have all these different subgenres, and the playing styles are so different with the subgenre, even though it's all metal. We're all playing guitar, so it's kind of a sludge, super overdriven kind of a. I'm trying to think. Is it? Maybe they pull up the mids, take out the lows, scoop up the between the mids and the highs, and then take out the. It feels like they take out the lows, but it's really sort of an overdriven sound. It's real sludgy and heavy. So YOB. Then that also makes me think of I can't believe I can't remember the band with Kurt Winston. Oh, I can't remember the name, but they got to be on a list. They got to be on a list. Kurt Winston. That would Crowbar. And of course, Down. Duh. They're on the list. They're on the list. Got to put the Crowbar. All right. And got the Crowbar. Okay, then we got to put Down / Pantera. Now the last two I'm going to discuss tonight. These ones are going to be from the hip hop realm. This is going to be more of a newer groups. I don't think they're necessary. Well, there's going to be three I'm going to talk about because I know one is definitely part of the culture. I'm even going to just mention them first just in case so I don't forget. So the Underachievers, they're not so much new and young anymore because last time when they first came out, it was like mad years ago. It had to be over like 10 years ago, but they were, of the newer set of hip hop sort of class. And they I think there's some New York dudes because they get that sort of a New York sound. Yeah, I believe they are. I've seen videos from in New York, so yeah. As a matter of fact, was it one that I remember was not Central Park or Prospect Park, Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. I probably because there's Central Park and there's Prospect Park, if I remember. But either way, they switch from classic New York style to sort of newer style, sort of like drill type style. They've done it in the middle of a song, so you have one song like half of it sort of like classic, and then the other one sort of updated, and they just rip. He did a whole album with the producer Lex Luthor. Ah, I haven't heard too much from them lately, but I think that they have some stuff out. I haven't checked it out, but definitely gonna put them on the list. They're gonna be something we're gonna explore. Now the next one, I don't know how new these dudes are. I know they got some new stuff out. I saw like a short with Redman talking about him, and then actually listening to him. Holy shit! It's like a culmination of like years and years and years and years of hip hop, all in this one group. I think it's like 4 dudes, and one of them even rhymes in Spanish. It's Coast Contra. Coast Contra. Oh, oh. They what definitely hip hop should look like, at least as far as my estimation. I mean, I know, people have their taste, and a lot of people nowadays listen to more of that modern style, the drill styles, and the, what I'm saying, I don't know how to call some of the styles I hear nowadays. It's all, but then again, it all sounds sort of the same, or it doesn't. With a lot of groups nowadays, they don't want to seem like they want to have distinguishing things from each other. They want to follow a formula because that formula is going to get them paid. And then you have certain groups that don't follow that formula and should definitely be getting paid. They should definitely be getting. It's hurtful to know if these dudes ain't millionaires, yo. If not now, going to be. Coast Contra. And that goes to my next one. Now, this is a female rapper, another one that still has that sort of modern sound, but I don't know necessarily the things. It's a female rapper. The things she talks about is sort of a little bit typical compared to all other female rappers. But this one I'm talking about now, she has it's actually performance to her. She's actually rhyming, and it feels like I don't know if people wrote her rhymes, but because that does happen with a lot of these female rappers. But it feels like, and I'd love to think that she was sitting in the studio and she wrote these shits out. You know what I'm saying? That the shit that she's talking about is her actual feelings, and she put it together rhythmically, and put together a performance. Whereas you have a lot of female artists. I'm not gonna say names because I don't like this. Even though I don't like them, I don't necessarily have to shit on people. This is not what I do necessarily. But whereas a lot of these female artists may be able to sell records and get radio plays or sell streams or whatever. But then when it comes to an actual tour, putting together a show, it's nothing, and it's basically just like if you get a bunch of dudes on stage rhyming and shit like that. There's no style to it. There's no show. So the one I'm talking about actually put together a performer. She's a performer, and the rhyme is part of her performance. So Doechii, that's the next one. Doechii, I don't think she gets enough shine. Pretty chocolate pretty. But not even trying to be like an old perv about it. It's just that, just the whole package, because she's beautiful, chocolatey beautiful. Oof. But it's part of the performance. She puts it into performance, but it doesn't feel like she's trying to also be like the thirst trap type either. I mean, I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's another one I want to give a little deep dive, but it pulls you in. All that's part of it. It's not you're not disgusted. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, ugh, your pussy did what? Really? Your booty hole's what color? Really? Your word? I mean, you smashing this many people, like, word? Whereas she'll put these themes in a song, maybe not to that extent, but it'll be like a. I mean, you got to think like an old Black Star, Mos Def type of vibe. I just wish, just I could say that, she writes her own rhymes and shit like that. But all these groups, these last groups, all these groups, man, I just sit back and just roll up and just sit back and, you know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily have to do anything. know what I'm saying? Sometimes, with some music, you feel like maybe you listen to it, you should be doing something, or it should be part of a movie, or, it doesn't. A lot of music nowadays, you don't necessarily feel too attached to it in the sense that you can just sit back and just puff up and go. And again, a puff up to anything. Shit. All right, so that's the list. Anybody watching this, I'll be putting up the little thing for Discord. Start streaming this weekend. Got a good list of movies. If anybody watches, want to know what movies, let's go back to Kick and look at my pod thing from previous. Actually, yesterday, because it's Thursday, we talk about the dystopian movie. So check that shit out. You'll see what movies and what the significance, significance, what the significance of these movies are. Anyway, let's see. Day is long. Sun is hot. Sun is hot. Might as well smoke. Got some pot. I'm out.